Somewhere after 60, something begins to change, and most people never question it. Getting up from the couch takes a little more effort. Walking from the driveway to the mailbox feels different than it did a few summers ago. Climbing stairs makes your legs feel heavier. Your energy, the energy you used to count on, seems to disappear before the day is even half over. And what do most people say to themselves? They say, well, I guess this is just part of getting older. They adjust, they slow down, they stop doing little things they used to enjoy, they sit more, they walk less, they ask for help with things they once did without thinking. But here's the question I want you to hold on to today. What if it is not just age? What if the weakness you feel in your legs, the tiredness that does not improve with sleep, or the dizziness that hits when you stand up is not simply your body wearing out? What if one of the medications you take every single day, a medication you trust, a medication that may have been prescribed to protect your heart, your blood pressure, or your stomach, is quietly working against your strength? My name is Dr. D. Miller, and this is Health with Dr. D. Miller. For nearly 14 years, I have worked with older adults who came into the office saying the same thing. Doctor, I think I am just getting old. But when we looked closer, when we reviewed their medications, their symptoms, their timing, and the small changes they had been ignoring, the story was often more complicated. I want to be very clear. This video is not telling you to stop taking your medication. Never stop, lower, or change a prescribed medication without speaking to your doctor. Some of these medications save lives. For the right person, they reduce the risk of heart attacks, strokes, dangerous blood pressure problems, and serious complications. But a medication can be helpful and still needs to be reviewed. A medication can protect one part of your health while creating problems in another part of your body. Today, I am going to show you 3 common types of medications that may contribute to weakness, fatigue, dizziness, or loss of energy in adults over 60. The first is a cholesterol medication many seniors take every morning. The second is a blood pressure medication problem that can make you feel unstable in just a few seconds. And the third is the one most people never suspect, because it is often taken for something as ordinary as heartburn. By the end of this video, you will know what signs to watch for, what questions to ask, and how to walk into your next appointment with confidence instead of confusion. Now, the first medication type I want every older adult to understand is statins. These are cholesterol-lowering medications, and if you are over 60, there is a very good chance you have either taken one yourself or you know someone who has. Names like atorvastatin, rosuvastatin, simvastatin, and pravastatin are sitting in medicine cabinets all across America. They are usually prescribed to lower LDL cholesterol, the kind many people call bad cholesterol, and to reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes. And let me say this clearly, because it matters. Statins are not the villain. For many people, especially those with a history of heart disease or high cardiovascular risk, these medications can be protective and even life-saving. But here is where the conversation often becomes too quiet. A medication can be useful and still create side effects that deserve attention. A medication can protect your arteries and still make your muscles feel like they are running on low battery. Many older adults are never told what to watch for, so when their legs begin to feel heavy, when their thighs ache after a short walk, when climbing the stairs suddenly feels like carrying a bag of cement in each leg, they do not think medication. They think age. They think, this is what happens after 60. They think, I just need to accept it. But inside the body, statins work by blocking a pathway involved in cholesterol production. That same pathway is also connected to something called CoQ10, or coenzyme Q10, which your muscle cells use as part of their energy-making process. Think of CoQ10 as one of the helpers your cells need to keep the engine running. When that process is affected in certain people, the muscles may not perform the way they used to. The result can be muscle soreness, tenderness, cramps, weakness, or a deep tired feeling that seems to live in the legs. Sometimes it shows up as pain. Sometimes it is not pain at all. It is that strange heaviness, that slow loss of confidence when you walk across a parking lot, that moment when you look at a staircase and quietly search for the elevator instead. And the dangerous part is how slowly it can happen. It may not arrive overnight. It may build month after month until your world becomes smaller. You stop walking around the block. You stop working in the yard. You stop going places where you might have to stand too long. And because the change is gradual, nobody sounds the alarm, not even you. You simply adapt. You tell yourself, I am getting older. But if you are taking a statin and you have unexplained muscle weakness, especially in your legs, that is not something to ignore. It does not mean you should stop your medication. It means you should bring the symptom into the light. Your doctor may need to review the dose, the specific statin, your other medications, your risk factors, and whether blood work such as a creatine kinase test makes sense. The goal is not fear, the goal is awareness. Because getting older may slow you down, but you deserve to know whether a daily pill is making that slowdown worse. Let me tell you about Robert Harris, a 71-year-old retired electrician from Columbus, Ohio. Robert was the kind of man who had always been useful with his hands. If a light switch stopped working, he fixed it. If the garage door made a strange sound, he found the problem. On Saturday mornings, he used to mow the lawn, clean the gutters, and still have enough energy left to play catch with his grandson in the backyard. But over time, something changed. It did not happen all at once. There was no dramatic moment, no fall, no hospital visit, no single morning where he woke up and said, "Something is wrong." It was slower than that. First, he stopped carrying heavy bags from the car. Then he started avoiding the stairs unless he had to use them. Then he noticed that walking across a large parking lot made his thighs feel tired, almost like they were filled with wet sand. At first, Robert did what so many older adults do. He blamed himself. He told his wife, "I guess I am just getting old." He told his daughter, "Maybe I need to slow down." But inside, it bothered him, because this did not feel like normal aging. It felt like his strength was being quietly taken away from him. Robert had been taking atorvastatin for several years to manage his cholesterol and reduce his heart risk. And again, that medication may have been prescribed for a very good reason. But when Robert came to see me, we did not just talk about his age. We talked about timing. We talked about where the weakness started. We talked about whether the pain was in the joints or in the muscles. We talked about his thighs, his calves, his energy, his daily routine, and every medication he was taking. That is when the picture started to become clearer. I ordered blood work, including a creatine kinase test, which can help show whether there is muscle irritation or muscle damage. His level was higher than expected. Now, that does not mean every person on a statin needs this test, and it does not mean every ache or pain is caused by cholesterol medication. But in Robert's case, his symptoms were real, his pattern mattered, and his body was giving us information we needed to respect. After reviewing his heart risk, his medication history, and his lab results, we adjusted his treatment plan carefully. We did not make careless changes. We did not tell him to throw away his medication. We made a supervised medical decision, and several weeks later, Robert came back with a different look on his face. He told me I thought I was losing myself to old age. I did not realize my body was asking for a medication review. That sentence has stayed with me because so many people watching this may be living the same story. So here's what I want you to say at your next appointment if this sounds familiar. "I have been noticing muscle weakness, especially in my legs. Could we review my statin, check whether it may be contributing, and decide if any blood tests or medication adjustments are appropriate?" That is a strong, respectful, medically reasonable question. And please hear this clearly. Do not stop your statin on your own. Do not skip doses because of a video. Do not change your prescription without your doctor. But do not ignore your body either. Because sometimes the difference between feeling old and feeling stronger again begins with one honest conversation. Now let's talk about the second medication problem. And this one can become dangerous very quickly because the weakness does not always build slowly over months. Sometimes it hits in the few seconds after you stand up. I am talking about blood pressure medications, especially when the dose is too aggressive for an older body. And before anyone misunderstands me, let me be very clear. High blood pressure is serious. Uncontrolled blood pressure can increase the risk of stroke, heart attack, kidney disease, heart failure, and damage to blood vessels throughout the body. So yes, treating high blood pressure matters. Medications like beta blockers, diuretics, ACE inhibitors, ARBs, and other blood pressure drugs can be extremely important. But the goal is not just to make the number look good on paper. The goal is to protect your life while keeping you steady, alert, and safe in the real world. And that is where many older adults run into trouble. After 60, the body does not always adjust as quickly as it used to. When you move from lying down to sitting, or from sitting to standing, your blood vessels and your heart have to respond fast enough to keep blood flowing to your brain. In a younger body, that adjustment often happens smoothly. But in an older body, especially one taking blood pressure medication, the pressure can drop too far, too fast. The medical name for this is orthostatic hypotension. In plain English, it means your blood pressure falls when you stand up. And what does that feel like? It feels like the room suddenly shifts. It feels like your vision turns gray for a moment. It feels like your knees lose confidence. It feels like you need to grab the edge of the table, the arm of the couch, the bathroom counter, or the wall beside you just to stay upright. And because the feeling may pass after a few seconds, many people never mention it. They say, "I just stood up too fast." They sit back down, wait for the dizziness to fade, and then go on with their day. But if this is happening again and again, It is not something to brush off. For older adults, dizziness when standing is not just uncomfortable. It can be a warning sign for falls. And falls after 65 can change a person's life in a single moment. A broken hip, a head injury, a hospital stay, or the fear of walking alone can take away independence faster than almost anything else. This is why your blood pressure plan should be reviewed not only by the numbers, but by how you actually feel when you stand, walk, shower, use the bathroom at night, or move around your home. A good reading in the clinic means very little if you are holding on to furniture every morning, just to keep from falling. Let me tell you about Susan Parker, a 68-year-old retired elementary school teacher from Phoenix, Arizona. Susan had always been independent. She lived alone, cooked her own meals, drove herself to church on Sundays, and loved taking care of the small garden behind her house. She was not the kind of woman who complained. In fact, when something felt wrong, she usually found a way to work around it. And that is exactly what made her situation so dangerous. About a year after her doctor adjusted her blood pressure medication, Susan's numbers looked excellent on paper. Every clinic visit showed what seemed like success. Her blood pressure was lower, her chart looked better. Everyone thought the plan was working. But at home, Susan was living a very different story. When she stood up from the kitchen table, she had to pause. When she got out of bed in the morning, she reached for the dresser before taking her first step. When she walked through the hallway, her hand quietly brushed the wall, just in case her body gave out. She started arranging her living room differently, moving a chair closer to the doorway, keeping the coffee table within reach, making sure there was always something nearby to hold on to. But she did not call it dizziness. She did not call it weakness. She told herself, I am just being careful. That phrase, I am just being careful, is something I hear all the time from older adults who are slowly losing confidence in their own balance. When Susan finally came into my office, I asked her one simple question. Do you ever feel lightheaded or weak right after standing up? She looked surprised because no one had asked it that directly. Then she said, yes, but only for a few seconds. Only for a few seconds. That is the part people ignore. So we checked her blood pressure while she was sitting, and then we checked it again after she stood up. Within less than a minute, her systolic pressure dropped sharply. Susan grabbed the edge of the exam table and said, that is it. That is exactly the feeling I get at home. That was the moment the problem became visible. Her body was not simply old. Her body was struggling to adjust when she stood up. After reviewing her medication list, her dose, the timing of her pills, her hydration, and whether her uretic was too strong for her daily routine, her treatment plan was carefully adjusted. Not randomly, not dangerously, carefully with medical supervision. A few weeks later, Susan told me she had walked to her mailbox and back without touching the wall once. That may sound small to someone who has never been afraid of falling, but to Susan, it felt like getting a piece of her freedom back. So if this sounds like you, here is the sentence I want you to bring to your next appointment. I feel dizzy or weak for a few seconds after standing. Could we check my blood pressure while sitting and then standing, and review whether my current blood pressure medication plan is too aggressive for me? That is not complaining. That is giving your doctor important information. And if you have ever stood up and felt the room shift, if you have started holding on to furniture, if you have quietly changed the way you move through your own home, I want you to comment yes below. You may be helping someone else realize they are not alone. But please remember, if dizziness comes with chest pain, shortness of breath, fainting, confusion, or weakness on one side of the body, do not wait for an appointment. Get medical help right away. Now we come to the third medication type, and this is the one that surprises people the most, because it usually has nothing to do with the heart, the legs, or blood pressure. When most people think about weakness after 60, they think about aging, arthritis, poor circulation, lack of exercise, or maybe a heart problem. Almost nobody thinks about the little pill they take for heartburn. I am talking about proton pump inhibitors, often called PPIs. These include medications such as omeprazole, pantoprazole, and esomeprazole, and many people know them by brand names like Prilosec or Nexium. For someone with chronic acid reflux, GERD, ulcers, or irritation in the esophagus, these medications can bring real relief. They can reduce burning, protect irritated tissue, and help people eat and sleep more comfortably. So again, the message is not that these medications are bad. The problem begins when a person starts taking them every day, year after year, and nobody stops to ask, do you still need this dose, this often, for this long? PPIs work by reducing stomach acid. That sounds simple, but stomach acid is not just something that causes burning. Your body also uses stomach acid to help break down food and absorb certain important nutrients. Over time, in some people, long-term acid suppression may contribute to low magnesium, low vitamin B12, and problems related to calcium absorption and bone health. And what can that look like in an older adult? Not always dramatic pain. Not always something that sends you straight to the emergency room. Sometimes it looks like deep fatigue that sleep does not fix. Sometimes it looks like muscle cramps at night. Sometimes it feels like your legs are heavy, your brain is foggy, your memory is slower, and your body just does not recharge anymore. Let me tell you about Linda Williams, a 73-year-old retired accountant from Fort Worth, Texas. Linda had been taking pantoprazole for years. At first, it helped her heartburn so much that she never questioned it. Every morning, she took it automatically, the same way she poured her coffee or checked the weather. But slowly, she became what she called permanently exhausted. She could sleep 9 hours and still wake up tired. She started getting leg cramps in the middle of the night. Her daughter noticed that Linda seemed slower in conversation, almost like she was searching for words through a fog. Several routine blood tests came back without a clear answer, and Linda was told more than once that she was probably just getting older. But when we checked her vitamin B12 and magnesium levels, the picture changed. Her body was not simply aging. Her body was running low on nutrients it needed to function well. Under medical supervision, we discussed a careful step-down plan, reviewed why she had reflux in the first place, adjusted her nutrition, and added targeted supplementation where appropriate. A few months later, Linda said something I will never forget. She said, "I did not know how tired I had become until I started feeling normal again." So if you have been taking a reflux medication for a long time, here is the sentence to bring to your doctor. I have been taking this reflux medication every day for a long time. Could we check my vitamin B12 and magnesium levels and talk about whether I still need this medication daily? That is not a demand. That is a smart question. And sometimes, one smart question is where your strength begins to come back. Now, here's what I want you to do with everything we talked about today. Do not panic. Do not throw your pills away. Do not stop a medication because of something you heard in a video. That is not the point. The point is to stop dismissing your body when it is trying to tell you something. Today, take out your phone, a notebook, or even a piece of paper from the kitchen drawer and make a simple 30-day medication and symptom log. Write down every medication you take, including prescription drugs, over-the-counter pills, vitamins, and supplements. Then, every morning, write down 3 things. How is your energy? How do your legs feel? Do you feel dizzy, weak, or unsteady when you stand up? That is it. Just a few honest lines a day. Because when you walk into a doctor's office and say, "I feel tired," that can sound vague. But when you say, "For the last 14 days, I felt dizzy after standing 9 times," or "My legs felt heavy every morning after taking my medication," that becomes a pattern, and patterns matter. They help your doctor see what you have been living with instead of guessing. If you take a statin and your legs feel weak, ask whether the medication could be contributing and whether blood work makes sense. If you take blood pressure medication and feel lightheaded when you stand, ask for your blood pressure to be checked sitting and standing. If you have taken a reflux medication for months or years, ask whether your vitamin B12 and magnesium should be tested. These are not rude questions. These are smart questions, and a good doctor should want to hear them. Aging may slow you down, but sudden weakness, dizziness, heavy legs, muscle cramps, or deep fatigue should never be ignored. Your body may not be failing you. It may simply be asking you to look closer. I am Dr. D. Miller, and this is Health with Dr. D. Miller. If this helped you, subscribe, share it with someone over 60, and tell me in the comments which symptoms surprised you the most.